stayed in Edinburgh for 3 weeks with free accommodation.
Hi, let's go.
Alright, let's take a look at our weather forecast today.
Today's forecast, a lot of sunshine, blue skies, marine clouds. Just a perfect day to go outside and relax. That's your forecast. We'll be right back.
Yeah, sunny days, sunny days, sunny days. No clouds in the sky, about to get away. Feels like it's been a freaking decade. Sorry, don't call me cause I'm gonna be on break. Sunny day, make way. All the stress and doubt, yeah, not today. Feels like it's been a freaking decade. Sorry, don't call me cause I'm gonna be on break. Got the Tropicana, fresh cut sushi on a plate.
We stayed in Edinburgh for 3 weeks with free accommodation. Now, it's not because we're mega influencers. In fact, at the time of making this video, we got a whopping 760 subscribers. So it can't be that. I mean, subscribe below to help us grow. And no, we didn't actually sleep on anybody's couch or in their spare room. In fact, we got to stay in a big, beautiful, like historic stone building in a beautiful part of Edinburgh. Now, this place could be listed for hundreds of dollars a night, but we got it for free. It's located steps away from a bus stop that takes maybe 10 to 20 minutes to get to some of the most amazing places in Edinburgh to see, like Old Town or New Town or Leith. So many places that we were able to get with in just such a short amount of time. We were close to beautiful walking trails, green spaces, the botanic gardens, cafes and shops. All of these things, all in this one area. It was truly a wonderful place to stay. So this video is all about how we managed to find such a beautiful place to stay in Edinburgh for free for 3 weeks. So here's the big reveal. Let's just spit it out. We used trusted house sitters to be able to find pet sitting opportunities to be able to stay in Edinburgh. We had heard about pet sitting many times before, but just never really thought that we'd be able to get pet sitting for such long periods of time, honestly, and wondered if it was really even possible for a family. In this video, we're going to reveal all there is to know about what pet sitting is, how it works, who it's for, why it's such a great way to travel, and answer just kind of all the major questions that people might have about pet sitting. So let's start off with the obvious question of what it is and what's involved. In general, the idea of pet sitting is you go to somebody's house to take care of their pet while they're away on vacation. Sometimes pet sitters are paid for the service. Obviously, you have to be able to legally work in the country to be able to do that. Another way is that sometimes there's pet sitting that you go and they ask you to pay for some of the bills. That might be like the electric bill or something like that. And then there are pet sitting opportunities where they ask you to volunteer your time to pet sit and you get to stay for free in their home with the pet. And that's what trusted house sitters is. So what's involved really highly depends on the type of pet that you're sitting. You could be pet sitting for fish, which might mean just feeding them a couple times a day. Pet sitting dogs, cats, farm animals. So we, including like chickens, horses, sheep. We've seen all kinds of stuff on trusted house sitters. So there's plenty of different ones that you can choose from. And depending on what kind of pet sit that you're doing will determine just how much you need to do. So that it could include, feeding the pet, taking them for walks, playing with them, snuggling with them and all that kind of fun stuff, just spending time generally. You might need to administer medication. I know we've had to do that. We had one dog that we took care of that had diabetes, and so we had to administer regular insulin needles, which is not something you have to do if you're not comfortable with that sort of thing. Absolutely, it's not necessary, and it's probably a rare thing to find, but it is something that could come up if you are in search of finding a pet to sit. So we did do that. They gave us all kinds of help in figuring out how to do it. We felt very comfortable. I mean, the first time was we were a bit nervous, but we were there with the owners and everything was good. So just keep in mind, medication might be a thing to talk about and to learn about before you go. Of course, general grooming sometimes, and then there might actually be some things that you do as more of the house sitting side as well, because it's called trusted house sitters, but to be honest, it's almost always pets are usually involved. I don't think I've seen anything where pets are not involved. But there might be house sitting things as well, and that could be things like watering their plants inside, watering their gardens. You might even actually have to mow the lawn if you're there long enough. And of course, you will have to keep the house clean and tidy. Something to know is that the night before the sit, we tend to try to stay in the community where the Housesit is. So if it's Edinburgh, we stay the night in Edinburgh the night before, or you might have to stay the night before you leave. It all depends on when they are leaving and when they are arriving at the end of the pet sit. So keep that in mind as something, as an expense that might have to happen. Now, we've had pet sits where they allow us to stay with them the night before, but it's not guaranteed, and so that's just something you're going to want to work out and know ahead of time. When we did get to stay with them, it was actually like kind of a really nice part of it because we got to know the pet owners a little and talk with them, and that's really nice for us as a traveling family. Then why would you want to do some work while you're on vacation? I get it. We're going to talk about all the many reasons why you might want to consider this. Number one, of course, it's going to be cost savings. Accommodations is one of the most expensive parts of travel. And when we stayed here, like in Edinburgh, you're going to be spending at least like $200 a night. That means that over 3 weeks, we saved a whopping $1,400 by doing pet sitting. Not only that, but you have use of their kitchen and things like that, so you're able to have groceries and make things in the home to be able to reduce the cost of eating out. We are able to now revert some of that money and go and enjoy some other things. So we actually had a chance to see some other parts of Scotland before we went into this pet sit. We got to go see places like the Kelpies, which was awesome. We got to see Cavil Rock Castle, Stirling Castle, and Blair Atholl Castle, and Kenmore Village. We did actually all of these things in about 2.5 days, not even. So we got to see a ton of things in a short period of time, all just kind of surrounding Edinburgh. We had our own rental car, and we actually found some pretty cheap places to stay on Expedia, and we really enjoyed our time there. So we got to do that and revert some of the money that we might have had to spend on our time in Edinburgh, and we got to spend just a couple of nights exploring Scotland. All right, number two, it's nicer accommodations. For $200 a night, we aren't going to get a place that was nearly as nice as this home that we got to stay in. In fact, if we were to really calculate the value of the house itself that we stayed in, we probably would have saved closer to $3,500, because I can't imagine this place on Airbnb being less than $500 a night. And number three, the pets themselves. Like, these guys are quite adorable. In order to pet sit, you need to like pets. That's just a requirement. We have never wanted to own a pet ourselves because we want the freedom to be able to travel full time. Our kids constantly ask for a pet. In fact, probably have been for as long as they could talk. And this is actually a great way to be able to kind of fulfill that desire. It's really nice for us because we do love pets. We do love them quite a bit. We just want to have the freedom to travel. So this gives us a chance to be able to have that kind of love that you get from having a pet in the home. It's great for us as travelers because we get to feel like we're in a home, and pets actually even enhance that much more. Number four, community and culture. You get to stay in an area that is outside of the typical touristy area, and you get to meet the neighbors. They often get to know that you're pet sitting, and so they will come up to you to be able to have a little bit of a conversation, and so you get to know the locals a little bit more. Number five, home conveniences. Now we kind of touched on this. You get to have a kitchen of your own, and it is fully stocked. Having that, having toys if it's a home that had kids at some point, even if they're older kids now. So having toys if you have kids with you. They have games, they have libraries, they have offices, great strong Wi-Fi to be able to use if you are working while you're doing all of this. And so there are just so many great home conveniences that you get along with the sit. All right, so let's just dive into who it is for and then also not for. Of course, number one, like us, we are a traveling family. We travel full time. And so this is great for families who want to save some money while they're traveling. If you're not in a hurry, you get to stay places for from days up to months. I've seen pet sits that go all the way up to at least 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. I mean, depending on how long you're allowed to stay in the area. Will help you determine whether or not you can actually do that. But they span in huge amounts of time. And so it really can be very convenient for you as a full-time, especially slow traveler. Number two, type of person who this would be for is anybody who is a budget traveler who has a little bit of time. So you won't want to do this if you are a fast traveler. If you're like, I want to see all of Scotland in 10 days, pet sitting's not really for you. But if you're like, you know what, I'm happy to go to Scotland and see Edinburgh for a week or so, then you might be able to find, you know, a pet sit for that period of time. And then you can just take a few days to see the rest of Scotland around that. You'll still save lots of money. You'll see so much of Edinburgh, which is beautiful, by the way. And we have so many videos that you can watch about this. If you subscribe below and also check out our description, we'll put some videos there, links for videos for you to check out as well, because there's so much to see here. And this could be true for anywhere. We're talking about Edinburgh right now, but I've seen stays all over the UK, all over Europe, Canada, US, Australia, New Zealand. In fact, I've seen ones in New Zealand that were like 2 months long in Auckland, and I was like, do we want to do that? It's a bit of a trek to get there, but you know, that's amazing. 2 months for free in Auckland. So there is incredible opportunities out there for you if you do have the time and you're on a bit of a budget. Number three is for retirees, actually. We think this is really great for retirees. People who are ready to travel, you know, they've worked and they've saved and they want to go traveling. This really helps to stretch the dollar quite a bit. And as a retiree, you generally don't have a huge time crunch, a timeline that you need to be home for. And so take your time, do some pet sitting. I do actually know somebody who she's a retired teacher and she loves doing this. And it's just a really great way to get around. Let's get into some frequently asked questions. Like, will I even actually be able to travel while I'm pet sitting? We got that question, and I totally get it, because you're like, well, I mean, I'm kind of working, right? Do I have to be with the dogs the whole time, or the cats the whole time, or the animal the whole time? And answer to can I travel is yes, you can. It really depends again on the pet that you're sitting, and that will determine how much time you actually have during the day to go out. I would say 4 to 5 hours is a good amount of time to expect to be able to leave the house and go do something. Depending on the pet, it could be longer than that or shorter, but that's something to work out ahead of time. 4 to 5 hours is good though. When we were in Edinburgh, we were able to get out, maybe go to the Royal Mile, see the castle, and do a couple of things, and then get back in time within that limit. And so you actually get to see a lot. And when you're staying somewhere, and if you're kind of slow traveling, you're staying in that area for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then you are absolutely able to, during that time, get out. And sometimes you can take your pet with us. We did that as well in Edinburgh. We took them on long walks where we got to see different parts of Edinburgh. All right, another question could be, how do I get around? If you're in a city, then of course there's public transportation to take advantage of. Lots of cities are very walkable as well, or towns or whatever. So now going into other options, I mean, you might want to rent a car depending on what's going on, like where you are exactly. If you're not right in a city or right in a town, there's a chance you're going to want to have a car. And rentals can be expensive. So one of the things that we've had a chance to do is we got added to the pet owner's insurance on their car. If they're not using their car and they can add you to their car insurance, then that is a possibility. It's an option. You can ask about that. There's also a website called Turo. I've not used it, but it looks like a way to rent cars for cheaper. It's kind of like Airbnb for car rentals. I know this video has a ton of information, and we're just trying to give you a good overview of what Trusted House Sitters is. So we're getting close to the end, I promise. And we actually have a really great giveaway for you if you're interested in doing Trusted House Sitters, because we know that it can be kind of overwhelming to get started in it. We want to make sure that you are set up and ready to get the best pet sets for you. And so we've created something for you for that. So just keep an eye out for that. We're going to talk about it a bit more later, and it's in the description below. Next question is, can families pet sit, or is it really just for individuals? As a family, we were incredibly skeptical of this because I just didn't know if people would be comfortable having somebody else's kids come into their home. Certainly not all opportunities are available to families. That could be ranging from they're just not comfortable with it to they don't have the space to host families, and a myriad of other reasons, I'm sure. But there are still plenty on there for families as well. In fact, we found that pets that are used to having families around, those pet owners actually prefer to have a family come. So it is absolutely possible. We have not had a very hard time with it, and I don't think you will either. All right, moving on to how do I find a pet sit? Now, there are pet sitting opportunities that you can find in Facebook groups if you want to try that way. We are part of those groups and we have found it actually a little bit challenging to really nail something down there. We haven't always felt like a Facebook group was very secure or even very organized in order to be able to feel good about doing that pet sit. So we jumped into Trusted House Sitters because it does feel a lot more secure. There's just more involved in getting signed up for both sides, and being able to search for locations was a lot easier on Trusted House Sitters. The communication is a lot better. It just feels more professional. In fact, it feels so professional, it kind of feels like applying for a job actually, which is why we put together our guide and templates, because it really does feel like applying for a job, and there's a lot involved to be able to make sure that you get the pet sit. Something to keep in mind is that it does cost a little bit of money to be able to sign up for Trusted House Sitters. It's about £100, I think, but it is 100% worth it for us. I mean, again, in a one pet sit, we have saved at least $1,400, if not more than that, because really we've actually lined up about 8 weeks of pet sits here in the UK. When you are going to be spending money on transportation to get to your pet sit or for accommodations before and after your pet sit, then you are going to want to make sure that the pet sit is secure. In the Facebook groups, I just never felt like that piece was secure enough for me. Whereas in Trusted House Sitters, you have to pay for the program, as well as there is a bit of an accountability piece with Trusted House Sitters that if it falls apart and you were counting on that accommodation, then there is some monetary, almost like not really insurance, but kind of like an insurance for you, that if it doesn't happen, then maybe you can get some money to be able to compensate for that loss. We just felt like Trusted House Sitters was better for us as a family who is going to be trusting that we are going to this place, and that, we're trying to save money by setting aside that week or 2 weeks or whatever amount of time to be able to go there. Again, Trusted House Sitters, so easy to find the sits. You can do searches, you can do filters, places that accept families, how long of stay that you're looking for. We only ever generally look for stays for about a week or more, again, because of the cost of transportation to get there and all those things. It's really easy to find pet sits across the UK, Europe, Canada, US, Australia, New Zealand. Those are like the prime spots. There are other places that you can find pet sits, but those tend to be where the majority of pet sits are, especially in the UK, because that's where it's originated. I know we've gone over so many things and it might feel like a lot going on, and then the process of signing up for something and going through all of those things might feel overwhelming. So please check out our guide and template below. We put it together especially for you to make it super simple to be able to sign up and get started. And we're gonna have more videos about this. So please subscribe to stay tuned, because we don't wanna overwhelm you significantly in one video. I already feel like we probably have, but we wanna be able to answer more of your questions. If you have any questions about pet sitting, please put it in the comments below. We had help to sign up. We wanna pass that help on to you. And we really hope that you have learned so much about pet sitting in this video. We hope that you're inspired to give it a try. It is so fun to be able to come and just kind of love on these furry friends. We have really loved it, and we hope that you do too. Thank you so much for joining us every further mile.
Hi, let's go.
Alright, let's take a look at our weather forecast today.
Today's forecast, a lot of sunshine, blue skies, marine clouds. Just a perfect day to go outside and relax. That's your forecast. We'll be right back.
Yeah, sunny day, sunny day.